Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Okay, so Saundarya Lahari. So what we learned, we learned the chanting of Saundarya Lahari in the last few months. Actually, we started off Saundarya Lahari chanting and meanings about a year ago. Last Guru Purnima time, I think we began, and we did the meanings for some verses, and then we paused, and then we said we will learn all the chants. Thanks to Kalpaka's idea. We said we'll learn all the chants, get comfortable with the chants, and then start looking at the meanings. It always makes a lot of sense to get comfortable with the chants. Otherwise, the association with the meaning of the word is not established. Right? When the chant becomes a little, you repeat the chant and you become a little comfortable with the chant, and you hear the words, and then when the meaning comes, the association becomes very easy. Like my mother would say, when a child, you teach the child rhymes. So when you teach the child rhymes, you don't necessarily tell them the meaning, nor do they ask the meaning also. And of course, these days children may be different. But usually you don't bother telling the meaning to the children. You get them to learn the rhymes, which is what we do as a chant. We learn the chant first, and then we look at an opportunity to look at the meaning, because then the chant gets established a little bit, and then when the meaning comes, whenever you repeat the chant, the meaning goes along, and then there's a little bit of a synergy that goes. So there's much easier absorption of the meaning. So that way we finished the chanting 100 shlokas. Thank you to Mother, and thanks all. It was actually a beautiful journey. And then now we'll start looking at the meaning. So when we look at the meanings, the way I wanted to do it is we pick up one shloka, each one of us chant the verse, so that we again make sure that we are comfortable with the verse, and then we look at the meanings. Right? So today we'll look at introduction, and if time permits, we'll look at the first verse. Okay. So introduction is a Saundarya Lahari. The text was essentially composed. Adi Shankara Rachitam. It is composed by Adi Shankaracharya. And there's a story. There is a backstory to Saundarya Lahari. Several of you may know the story, but just for the benefit of all, I'll repeat that story. So what happens is, Adi Shankara visits Mount Kailash, right? And apparently this is the place where Shiva and Parvati are residing. Right? Now, today, if you go to Mount Kailash and you search, oh, is Shiva Parvati sitting there? You may not be able to find it that way, right? But then this is a different realm, right? There's always a material realm, and there is a different realm where they operate. And if you're able to access that realm, then you'll be able to get a visitation. Or even Upper Swami, one of the Nalvars, the Upper Swami, one of the Nayanmars, he got the opportunity to go to Kailash, Mount Kailash, and he got a darshan of Shiva and Parvati. That's a slightly different story. How that happens, it's beautiful. You should watch Shivaji Ganesh's movie on that. But the idea is several people have gone, masters and great masters have gone, and they've had the opportunity to go and have the darshan of Shiva and Parvati. Now, with Adi Shankara, what happened is, when he visited them, he went and asked, please give me something that I can go and share it with the world. So then the story goes that with the permission of Parvati, Shiva gave Saundarya Lahari to Adi Shankara. And Saundarya Lahari had 100 verses. Okay. And then Adi Shankara was excited. It was like, this amazing work that I've got directly from Parameshwari, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to spread and teach this in the world. So he comes down. While he is coming down, Nandi is very upset because there is usually Shivan Sottu. You should not, the property of Shiva should not leave Shiva's abode. அப்படின்னு ஜென்ரலா சொல்லுவா. There is one saying that says Shivan Sottu எடுத்துன்னு வந்த குலநாசம் அப்படின்னு குலநாசம் சொல்லுவா. So which means you don't take out anything from the abode of Shiva, be it a Shivalaya, which is a temple, or where Shiva is residing, right? So with that in mind, Nandi stops him. Nandi stops him and says that you can't bring it out. But he says, Shiva himself has given it to me. Who are you to stop? And there is a Vakavadam, there is a fight that happens there. And then Nandi takes the form of a goat, right? And he starts snatching it away from Shiva. Adi Shankara starts snatching it away. And then there's a tug of war. They start pulling. And then at the end of the tug of war, about half of it remains with Nandi, and the remaining half is with Adi Shankara. The second half remains with Nandi. So the first half, which is verses 1 to 40, 1 to 41, that remains with Adi Shankara. The second half goes away with Nandi, and Nandi runs away with it. And then Adi Shankara is completely devastated, and he's crying, and he goes back to see Shiva and Parvati, and he cries, and he says, what is this duvidha? You've put me in a situation like this. I'm supposed to go and distribute your knowledge to the world, and you've done a leela here, you've done a play, and you've pulled half of it from me. What do I do? Then Shiva and Parvati say, don't worry. The second half you write on your own, you compose. So the first half you have, second half you compose, and that will be beautiful, because when you compose, our devotee composes it, there is much more rasa in it, bhakti in it, than what we can give you, right? It's like, so there's a beautiful this thing that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. He says, oh Lord, I don't want to. So he brings the difference between Advaita and Vishishta Advaita. He says, oh Lord, I don't want to become sugar. You are sugar. I don't want to become sugar, because then I will not be able to taste sugar. To be able to taste sugar, I should be a devotee. I should be somebody different from the sugar. Then I can taste the sugar. So the rasa, bhakti rasa, is possible only when you are a bhakta and there is Bhagavan. Right? So that difference is there. So in that spirit, Shiva tells Adi Shankara, you compose it. You write the remaining that has been taken away from you. And from your perspective, the world should receive this knowledge and beauty. So the first part is called as Ananda Lahari. So the first part that remained is called as Ananda Lahari. And it is because it is come directly from Shakti, from Ambal and Shiva, it's supposed to be very tantric in nature. There are a lot of hidden bijaksharas there. A lot of bijaksharas are hidden in the first 41 shlokas, 41 verses. And those bijaksharas are revealed only by a Sri Vidya Guru to a Sri Vidya Upasaka. So generally, as a meaning or as an upanyasam or as a discourse, those meanings are not revealed. Okay, that is the first thing. Second thing is, the first part contains a lot of concepts around Sri Vidya, Tantra, all of that. The second part is largely around the beauty of Devi, the description, the Varnana of Devi herself, the description of Devi, because it is Adi Shankara's outpouring, right? So the second half is called Saundarya Lahari. So the whole work is Saundarya Lahari. The first half is called Ananda Lahari. Second half is called Saundarya Lahari. That is the backstory for this thing. The one of the reasons why the name Saundarya Lahari is because Saundarya Lahari, the word means Saundarya is beauty, Lahari is a wave. So it's a wave of beauty, a wave of bliss, a wave. right? Why is that so? Because what Adi Shankara perceived when he had the darshan, or the when he saw Devi and Shiva, Kameshwari, all he would experience was one was joy, which is Ananda. He experienced Ananda, but what he also experienced is bliss of beauty. Right? See, even in this thing, we say Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Satyam is truth, Shivam is auspiciousness, and Sundaram is beauty. And whenever one attains to that understanding or completely dissolves himself in Bhagavat Chintanam, you will experience only beauty. Everything will feel beautiful around you. You won't feel anything is, although we see from the point of view that we see everything, there is so much of poverty in the world, there is so much of grief, there is so much of crime, all of that. Once we raise our consciousness to a level where we are able to tune in with the creator, with the primordial principle, then everything is just a leela, everything is just a play, things are coming and going, and it'll just seem like a beautiful symphony. There is a German philosopher named as Arthur Schopenhauer, a very popular German philosopher. He translated Upanishads from Persian to German. There is a person called Dara Shikoh, Aurangzeb's elder brother, who was imprisoned by Aurangzeb. And Dara Shikoh, there is actually a lane in Kashi, in Varanasi, called Dara Shikoh lane or gully. And Dara Shikoh lived in Kashi for several years with a guru there, and he learned the Upanishads from the guru. And what he did is he translated the Upanishads into Persian. So Dara Shikoh was an Islamic king, or Aurangzeb's elder brother, but he was so drawn to Sufism and to do Vedanta and Upanishads that he was under a guru, a Vedanta guru, and he learned the Upanishads and he translated from Sanskrit to Persian. Many years later, German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, he picked up this Persian version of the Upanishads and he translated it into German. And he would, if you read about Arthur Schopenhauer, he'll say he would read a page or two from the Upanishad every night before he sleeps off. Okay. And he writes that life to me, at the age of 60, he's saying, during my whole life, events in my life happened, people came, there are many changes that happened, right? People came, people went, whatever life events happened, there are too many upheavals, up and down. I got famous, I became I became whatever, right? So there's a period of fame, and then you go down on fame and you become like a normal person, and so on and so forth. So he went through all the cycles of life, and at the age of 60, he said everything looked like chaotic when things were happening. But when I look back now, at the age of 60, I look back, it seems like a perfect symphony. Right? When you look back, you're much older, when you look back at life, and when wisdom rises within us, you will see that, and you will see that it couldn't have been any different. For me today to be in a place where I am today, it couldn't have happened without all that happened in my life, and it was a perfect symphony. It happened in a certain way, in a structure. Anything, a small thing, any change, a lot of times we think only if it would have happened like that, only if it would have, the questions that they ask in the beauty pageant, stupid questions, right? What would you do if you were Mother Teresa? What would you do if you were born in 1950 and all that? I mean, these are hypothetical questions, of course. But the point is that in your life, anything that changed, the way we have to perceive is anything that would have changed, but only would have made it worse. That's the only way we should think. Because that is where you now recognizing God's grace. What we always think is, if some of these things would have changed, my life would be better. What's the guarantee of that? So the only way to think forward and go forward and recognize God's grace is anything that would have changed there would have made my life worse. Now, for whatever, this is the condition I'm in, and this is the best condition for me given whatever happened. So you see life as a symphony, and that is Saundarya. That experience, see, if somebody like Arthur Schopenhauer is able to look at life at the age of 60, look back and say, my life was a perfect symphony, that is Saundarya. He's experiencing beauty in life. And what happens is, when this sensation, this expression of beauty occurs within us in a repeated way as joy, that is Lahari. Lahari. You go to the ocean, you go to the sea, you stand there, waves keep coming, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other, right? There's no stopping of the waves. Waves come, and they recede, and they come again, they recede, they come again. So in the same way, for somebody who is in a state of bliss, who is in a state of understanding, who's in the state of Advaita, who's in tune with that consciousness, for that person, this constant joy, without reason, there's this constant joy that keeps surging. So this is Saundarya Lahari. So the first part is Ananda Lahari, which Adi Shankara experienced it as bliss. The second is he experienced it as beauty. Beauty again at various levels. One is beauty of Ambal herself, such a beautiful form. Because even if you look at Lalita Sahasranama, the way the description of Devi is so beautifully done, so intricately done, right? You can almost draw an image. Right? Artists actually use the Saundarya Lahari and the Lalita Sahasranama as a reference to draw the image. The Ambal that you have seen, the Bhuvaneshwari that I've shown you earlier, she was drawn like that. She was painted like that by referring Lalita Sahasranam and Saundarya Lahari. So it's so descriptive. So Adi Shankara has also done a phenomenal job in trying to describe Ambal so that it becomes such a pictorial visualization in our minds, and it becomes a joyful and a sensation of beauty. So that is Saundarya Lahari. Now there are 100 verses, and as we go through each verse, not every verse is necessarily connected, right? Verses may be in a certain way, but the first 41, we look at Ananda Lahari, there'll be things about chakras, Sri Chakra, the chakras within our body, right? All of that will be described. And the remaining 59 or so will be mostly around the description of Devi. Okay, so this is Adi Shankara's work. Now, usually when they do Saundarya Lahari Parayanam, the 100 verses, right? There are associated yantras and mandalas associated with it. Every verse has a phalashruti, which means every verse is potent in a way that, and every verse has a yantra associated with it. There's a book by Swami Satsanghananda, Swami Satya Sanghananda Saraswati of Bihar School of Yoga. She is the disciple of Swami Satyananda Saraswati. She has written a beautiful book on Saundarya Lahari, where in the last few pages, she's shown verse 1, what is the yantra, what are the naivedyam that you should use, how many times it should be chanted, and what is the result that you get. So either such tables exist. So people do take that up as a as a kamya karma. You can do it for some desire you want to fulfill, right? For health reasons, for wealth reasons, for sickness, and you want to drive away sickness. You're afraid, there is fear, you want protection, you want understanding, you want wisdom, you want progeny, you want a husband, you want a wife, you want a friend, you want to conquer, for many different purposes, desires, there are different shlokas. But then you do some shlokas, you do it for like 45 days with a certain yantra, with the offering of ghee and annam and things like that. And you do that like that, right? Then certain mantras of 100 days and so on and so forth. So this is a structure. This is something that Saundarya Lahari is also used. One is the Parayanam that we do, the 100 shlokas with complete bhakti that you do. One is if you have a particular desire, it is also that is also available as a tool for people to use, and a lot of people do that. In fact, there were times that I have used it to recite Saundarya Lahari's certain shlokas for. There are times when people are in critical conditions, right? Very critical conditions, very bad accident, near death, things like that. You can use some of these mantras. They are pretty effective. They're quite effective. So that is the tool side of Saundarya Lahari, where you use it for a particular desire or towards a certain end. Otherwise, you use it as a bhakti sutra with complete devotion, right? So that is Saundarya Lahari. Anything that you've heard of, or something that you want to share on Saundarya Lahari? Any experiences, those who have chanted it before, anything that you have? Correct. Absolutely. So there are
no Giri trading la இந்த புக் தான் சொல்லிருக்காங்க மோஸ்ட்லி சாண்டிங்.
அதேதான் சேம் மாமி மாமா தான் காமிக்கிறேன்.
அதே மாதிரி இன்னும் ஒண்ணு சொல்லணும்னு நினைச்சேன். வேற நீ சொன்னியே அங்க போனா கலக்கணம் பெருமாளோட இவரோட கலக்கணும்னு தனியா இருந்தாருன்னு. ஹனுமான் அப்படிதானே, மேல போனா ராமா உன்னோட சேர்ந்துருவேன், உன்னை பக்தி பண்ண முடியாது, நான் பூலோகத்திலேயே இருக்கேன்னு சொல்லி அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவான்.
Absolutely. The other interesting thing I just wanted to touch upon is in terms of the whole idea of mantras and mantra shastra. I just wanted to touch upon it a little bit, just to show that of course we are all in this group because we understand the power of mantras, we understand the power of sound, and we understand the power of sound recited in a certain way, right? So essentially all of this is nothing but sound organized in a certain way. And isn't Shiva Shaktya Yukto, or you're saying Kakara Rupa Kalyani, you're saying Trishati, or you're saying Shri Mata, Shri Maharagni, Shrimat Simhasaneshwari, whatever. These are mantras, these are sounds organized in a certain way that has a meaning, but they also have certain impact of the sound itself. Like you would have seen many forwards which talks about Vishnu Sahasranama having a lot of positive impact on people's health, particularly when they're ill, either physically or mentally. You repeatedly chant Vishnu Sahasranama, it has a very positive impact on their whole psyche and their physical ailment, right? It heals them. So in that sense, Saundarya Lahari is also one of the reasons why I also emphasize on the correct pronunciation when we are learning, is because of course bhakti overrides everything, right? Bhakti, if I am when I am filled with devotion for the Lord, I can tell vada poda yenda yenda, I can do all that. I can talk to God as though he's my child or my brother or my friend or whatever. But then if you're chanting mantras, it helps to have the pronunciations fixed right, if possible, to the extent possible, so that there is a certain amount of the effect of the sound reaches us appropriately. Essentially what happens is, sound that we are chanting essentially energizes the water within our body, the liquid within our body, right? Because we are about 60 over 70%, 60 to 70% water or liquid, right? The water element is predominant in our body in the same way it is predominant on planet Earth. So the way the sound has impact on the water element, there are experiments that have been done where they have run experiments to send sound through water, and it forms crystals, well-formed crystals. They create well-formed crystals. And what happens with well-formed crystals? It absorbs energy, nutrients, and everything very well. Right? So one of the things that happens actually is when we chant these mantras and all, the liquids in our body, they come into a well-formed structure. They come into a well-formed structure, and they're able to absorb nutrients that come from food. They're able to absorb energy from nature. They're able to absorb in any kind of material or subtle forms of energies, right? So that is why these mantras are very impactful and effective as we chant this, right? So as we do Saundarya Lahari, one of the things I would recommend is whenever you're taking up the Parayana, visualize your whole being as the Sri Chakra, right? Visualize your whole being as a Sri Chakra, because essentially that is what it is. For a Sri Vidya Upasaka, as you go deeper into Sri Vidya, you will learn and realize that the Sri Chakra that you see on the outside, or the Meru that you see on the outside, is nothing but a formation of energy which is inside you. So when all the energies within you are formed correctly, it will appear like a Sri Chakra within. When all your energies are tuned in appropriately, right? And what are the tools that are used to tune? Saundarya Lahari, Lalita Sahasranama, a lot of these chants that are there, they help you tune that. So you start by chanting without knowing the meaning, but then slowly by knowing the meaning, the bhakti increases, and some of these energies within us naturally will align itself in a way that it becomes the best structure possible to receive and emit positive energy and the right energies, right? So that way, that is the impact of sound. So also whenever we chant, let us be mindful of the pronunciation that we do. And like kudos to Lakshmi Mami, she is taken up to reading from Sanskritam. In fact, my mother did the same thing few years ago. சின்ன வயசுல தமிழ்ல படிச்சுதான் ஞாபகம், பழக்கம். So she also started reading through Sanskritam, and it's helped her a lot. So likewise, Mami, wonderful. So starting to read directly from Sanskritam, it will really help you to say the right this thing. Imagine if we knew Sanskritam as our mother tongue, how much more easier would it be for us to understand the meaning, right? It will be far more easier for us. But unfortunately, we have not been exposed to that. So we have to look at translations and meanings and dictionary and all of that. But at least from a chanting standpoint, it's always very good to chant in the original Devanagari script, right? So that's wonderful. So good. So with that, we've done the introduction. Chari, am I trying to say something?
இல்ல, I wanted to say, சுவாமிஜி சொல்லுவாரு, நீ படிச்சுட்டே வா, அர்த்தம் புரியலனா கூட, when you rightly pronounce and read it, you automatically get into the meaning in yourself. அது ஒரு மாதிரி நமக்குள்ள புரிய ஆரம்பிக்கிறது இல்லையா அர்த்தம். இத்தனை வருஷமா சான்ஸ்கிரிட்ல பேசினதும் கிடையாது, படிச்சதும் கிடையாது. பட் when we read it again and again, the meaning is slightly நமக்கு புரியுற மாதிரி ஒரு தோணல் வரத்தான் வருது இல்லையா? அது சுவாமிஜி சொன்னது ஞாபகம் வந்தது எனக்கு. Very nice. Correct. So what we'll do now, I think let's all take a quick turn to chant the first shloka. So Kalpaka, you want to start off first, and then everybody else after Kalpaka, each one will just chant.
Value plus, we are able to see value plus. Shivashakya yukto
yadi bhavati shakta prabhavitum न चेदेवं देवो न खलु कुशलस्पन्दितुमपि अतस्त्वामाराध्या हरिहर विरिञ्चादिभिरपि प्रणन्तुं स्तोतुं वा कथमकृत पुण्यः प्रभवति।
अम्मा नेक्स्ट चल रही है।
शिवशक्त्या युक्तो यदि भवति शक्तः प्रभवितुं न चेदेवं देवो न खलु कुशलः सन्तितुमपि अतस्त्वामाराध्यां हरिहर विरिञ्चादिभिरपि प्रणन्तुं स्तोतुं वा कथमकृत पुण्यः प्रभवति।
Very nice. Chandra Mama.
शिवशक्त्या युक्तो यदि भवति शक्तः प्रभवितुं न चेदेवं देवो न खलु कुशलः स्पन्दितुमपि अतस्त्वामाराध्यां हरिहर विरिञ्चादिभिरपि प्रणन्तुं स्तोतुं वा कथमकृत पुण्यः प्रभवति।
Very nice. Kailash ji.
शिवशक्त्या युक्तो यदि भवति शक्तः प्रभवितुं न चेदेवं देवो न खलु कुशलः स्पन्दितुमपि अतस्त्वामाराध्यां हरिहर विरिञ्चादिभिरपि प्रणन्तुं स्तोतुं वा कथमकृत पुण्यः प्रभवति।
सुंदर मामा मामी ரெண்டு பேரும் சொல்றீங்களா ஒண்ணு?
शिवशक्त्या युक्तो यदि भवति शक्तः प्रभवितुं न चेदेवं देवो न खलु कुशलः स्पन्दितुमपि अतस्त्वामाराध्यां हरिहर विरिञ्चादिभिरपि प्रणन्तुं स्तोतुं वा कथमकृत पुण्यः प्रभवति।
Very nice.
शिवशक्त्या युक्तो यदि भवति शक्तः प्रभवितुं न चेदेवं देवो न खलु कुशलः स्पन्दितुमपि अतस्त्वामाराध्यां हरिहर विरिञ्चादिभिरपि प्रणन्तुं स्तोतुं वा कथमकृत पुण्यः प्रभवति।
Super. Srividya ji.
शिवशक्त्या युक्तो यदि भवति शक्तः प्रभवितुं न चेदेवं देवो न खलु कुशलः स्पन्दितुमपि अतस्त्वामाराध्यां हरिहर विरिञ्चादिभिरपि प्रणन्तुं स्तोतुं वा कथमकृत पुण्यः प्रभवति।
Very nice. Shiva.
शिवशक्त्या युक्तो यदि भवति शक्तः प्रभवितुं न चेदेवं देवो न खलु कुशलः स्पन्दितुमपि अतस्त्वामाराध्यां हरिहर विरिञ्चादिभिरपि प्रणन्तुं स्तोतुं वा कथमकृत पुण्यः प्रभवति।
Nice. Shrini.
शिवशक्त्या युक्तो यदि भवति शक्तः प्रभवितुं न चेदेवं देवो न खलु कुशलः स्पन्दितुमपि अतस्त्वामाराध्यां हरिहर विरिञ्चादिभिरपि प्रणन्तुं स्तोतुं वा कथमकृत पुण्यः प्रभवति।
Very nice. Meera ji.
शिवशक्त्या युक्तः यदि भवति शक्तः प्रभवितुं न चेदेवं देवः न खलु कुशलः स्पन्दितुमपि अतस्त्वामाराध्यां हरिहर विरिञ्चादिभिरपि प्रणन्तुं स्तोतुं वा कथमकृत पुण्यः प्रभवति।
Very nice. Harini ji உங்களுக்கு ட்ரை பண்ணமா ஒரு தடவை?
Yeah, I don't mind. Okay. शिवशक्त्या युक्तो यदि भवति शक्तः प्रभवितुं न चेदेवं देवो न खलु कुशलः स्पन्दितुमपि अतस्त्वमाराध्यां हरिहरविरिञ्चादिभिरपि प्रणन्तुं स्तोतुं वा कथमकृत पुण्यः प्रभवति.
Very nice. Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, very nice. நம்ம எல்லாரும் ஒரு I think எல்லாருமே ஒரு 10 தடவை 13 தடவை சொல்லிட்டோம். Very nice. So, what is Adi Shankara starting here to say? The first one he starts here to say, see, you remember how Lalita Sahasranama ends? What is the last phrase of Lalita Sahasranama? यार ஞாபகம் இருக்கா?
अव्याज करुणामूर्तिम् अज्ञानध्वान्तदीपिकाम्
आबाल
रूपविदितां सर्वान् उल्लङ्घ्य शासनां श्रीचक्रराज निलयां श्रीमत् त्रिपुरसुन्दरीं श्रीशिवा शिवशक्त्यैक्य रूपिणीं ललितां
शक्त्यैक्य रूपिणी ललिता Shiva Shiva Shaktyaikyya Rupini. So what ends in Lalita Sahasranama? Shiva Shiva Shaktyaikyya, Shiva and Shakti Eka Rupini. So that it ends there in Lalita Sahasranama. It begins with Shiva Shakti Yukto Yadi Bhavati Shaktah Prabhavitum in Saundarya Lahari. So that if you look at it's an interesting connection to show that. So he's starting here to say that Shiva and Shakti that we're going to talk about, we're going to describe are not two. They are one. Shiva Shakti Yukto Yadi Bhavati Shaktah Prabhavitum. So which means he says that only when Shiva and Shakti are together, anything is possible. Anything that needs to be done, that needs to be created, needs to move, needs to happen, needs to vibrate. Anything that's possible that needs to happen can only happen when Shiva and Shakti are together. It doesn't mean to say that Shiva and Shakti are separate and they come together, right? We are not talking about that. We're saying that Shiva and Shakti are always together. It is just recognizing that. He is pointing to us to recognize that they're always together, right? A classic example would be to say, what is, like for instance, if you take a piece of paper. Now there are two sides to the piece of paper, right? There are two sides, and can you say that no, just give me one side? You may not want to see the other side, but you can't just take one side of the paper. When you get a piece of paper, you will get both the sides. Like taking a piece of coin, you will get both the sides. So like that, Shiva and Shakti are enjoined. They are together because they are one. They are one. It's just that they appear differently when you look at it from different sides. Like Ardhanarishwara. There was a movie way back by a person called Shantaram, a director called Shantaram. He made a movie and it was very wonderful. There's a dance element there where he himself dances like Ardhanarishwara. So Srividya ji, you're pointing out the right thing. So he is that in that Ardhanarishwara. So he, as a dancer, he himself dresses as a male on one side with the mustache and all. And then he himself is dressing like a female on the other side with long hair and all. And he turns this way, he dances like a male, and turns this way, dances like a female. So if you look at it, the person is the same, the entity is the same. It is what aspect of that entity is getting exposed to us, and that is how we refer to it as Shiva Shakti. Actually, that's true. Shivakami here. The first time that I actually saw Shivakami in Singapore is when she danced as Ardhanarishwara, and she did a fabulous job. Actually, the same thing, right? She did that wonderfully well. I mean, till date, I don't know if I've seen anybody else do a Ardhanarishwara dance as good as Shiva. So it is wonderful. So that Shiva Shakti, whenever we say, we should remember what he's pointing out is, in a way of saying, is Shiva Shakti, Shiva Shaktya, which means with Shiva, Shivaha, Shaktya. Shaktya means with Shakti, the Tritiya Vibhakti here. With Shakti, only when it is enjoined, only when they are together, they're able to do something, right? You may have heard this in Shiva, the word Shivaha, the Ikara is Shakti. So if you remove Ikara from Shiva, what remains is Shava. Shava means dead. So Shiva in the potential form is inert. And when Shakti is activated, only then movement happens, vibration happens. Spanditum, spandita, spandana. Spandana means it's essentially the vibration is called spandana. Movement, that is called spandana. So Shiva Shaktya yukto means coming together. Yadi bhavati, when that happens, Shaktaf prabhavitum, that is only then creation is possible. Right? Nached, otherwise, nached evam na khalu kushalah spanditum api, which means if not they are joined, nothing can move. Which means to say everything is a combination of Shiva Shakti, Shiva Shakti, Shiva Shakti, Shiva Shakti. In fact, I remember using this example even before, where we say Kalidasa had this beautiful verse that he had composed, right? Vagartha viva sampraktau Vagartha pratipattaye Jagatah pitaro vande
Parvati Parameshwara.
Parvati Parameshwarao.
It's the first in the Ramayana. Mangala Shlokam.
Mangala Shlokam, this appears, correct, in Valmiki's Ramayana. So Vagartha viva sampraktau Vagartha pratipattaye Jagatah pitaro vande Parvati Parameshwara. So which means similar to how word and meaning are inseparable, my Pitaro Vande, my Parvati and Parameshwara are inseparable in that way. Right? The way the word and its meaning. Can you strip off the word of the meaning and just give the word? Then it's cacophony, right? It's just sound. It's the word, sound. There's a difference between sound and word. Word is something that carries meaning inherently. Otherwise, there is no. You can't strip off the meaning from the word and then I speak something. It's not going to make any sense to you. It's similar to how the property and a substance, the substance and its property are together. The water is wet. The substance and its property. Fire will have heat. Fire will have light. Can you strip off that and just give me fire? Can I just have fire like that? Not possible. In the same way, Shiva Shakti are enjoined. For it to manifest itself in this created world, the Shiva and Shakti have to be together. The whole potential. So in simple terms, Shiva is potential energy. Shakti is the kinetic. They have to come together for something to move, something to happen. Which means the potential state to be activated, you need Shakti. Nache devam devo na khalu kushalah. If Shiva Shakti does not enter Shiva, this is the whole ideology of, or the archetype where you see Shiva, Shakti is sitting on Shiva. The archetype is that she is required to be, the substratum is Shiva for Shakti to operate. Aurobindo, Sri Aurobindo had written in one, I remember this probably in his, what is that place? Aurobindo Ashram in Pondicherry. I remember reading this somewhere. He says, without Shakti, Shiva is lame. Without Shiva, Shakti does not exist. Right? So if you look at it like that, the existence of Shakti is because of Shiva, because he is the potential, he is the substratum. But without Shakti, Shiva is nothing. He cannot move, he cannot do anything. Right? Then he goes on to say, Atastvam aradhyam. Ataha, therefore, Tvam aradhyam. Whoever is worshipping you, who worship you, Hari, Hara, Virinchi. Hari is Vishnu, Harihi, Haraha is Shiva, Virinchihi is Brahma. These three trinities, these three deities, or these three heads of functions of creation, sustenance, and destruction, they prostrate and worship you. Even they worship and prostrate and worship you, O Mother, because this whole thing is about Mother, right? Devi. So he is showing that Shiva is dead without Shakti. So the glory of Shakti is shown here. You're glorifying Shakti here, right? Okay, Shiva has pasted something. I'm not able to see that now. Maybe later. So because this is glorification of Mother, it is presenting Mother in a way that without her, Shiva cannot do anything. And who is she? She is the one who's worshipped by Hari, Hara, Virinchi. These three, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, all the three, they prostrate down to her and worship her. Pranantum stotum va. So they bow down and they worship you and salute you and praise you and they worship you. Then he goes on to say, Pranantum stotum va katham akrita punyaf prabhavati, which means even Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, they are worshipping you. Such great luminaries are worshipping you. How much punya should I have done to be able to worship you? Right? How much punya katham akrita, how can I even measure the amount of punya that I must have done to be able to worship you, O Devi, you, O Mother, you who are worshipped by Hari, Hara, Virinchi, and without you, Shiva himself cannot move. So which means this whole creation, Lalita Mahatripura Sundari, Parabhattarika, these are names that we refer to her, Lalita Parabhattarika, without her presence, none of this creation is possible. And such great luminaries and such great people have worshipped you. How much punya should I have done to be able to worship you? That's what she's saying. Now you bring it to us. How much punya have we done to be able to worship her, the one who is praised by Adi Shankara like this, right? To that same goddess, the same Mother, how are we able to worship her? So the very important messaging of this verse of the shloka is to understand that by virtue of us being able to even come together in satsanga, be in satsanga, think about these things, bring our minds to Bhagavad Chintanam, be able to chant, understand, contemplate, meditate, in itself is grace. Right? If we have a doubt, na pavi, do I have enough grace? Does God or do I deserve? Will I get moksha? Do I deserve to do this? Whatever I do, it doesn't make any sense. How much ever I do, I'm only struggling in my life. If all of these questions come, Adi Shankara is saying that recognize that there is grace just by the virtue that you're able to do this. You're able to sit in front of Devi. You're able to think about Devi. You're able to chant her nama. You're able to come together in satsanga under her name. Which is why in our culture, Amritasya Putraha, we are always recognized as this immortal soul, immortal son. Amritasya Putraha, we are eternal, the children of the eternal. We are never taken in as somebody who's a sinner and then I have nowhere to go. There's nothing like that. At any stage in life, any situation in life, if you're able to pick up a book and chant, if you're able to read Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, if you're able to read Bhagavad Gita, if you're able to sit, God has given us an ability to sit in satsanga, whether we are able to go in person or not. Now thanks to COVID, we are able to come together on Zoom so much more conveniently. This is grace. We should have time, right? We should be able to find time. I know several of us are working and we are making time to come here. We have children, we have all of these things that we do. We have ailing people at home. We still take out time to come and sit together, do this either here or anywhere else. In itself is grace. Sorry, Amma, chola.
கொரோனாவை எல்லாரும் சபிச்சோம். கொரோனா that gave all these opportunities all to all the people.
Correct.
உண்மையில it was a curse, but it's anyway it's a blessing.
Corona I would say it has created a kind of realization among the population of the world to the facts that yes, life at any time can be snuffed out. The value of life. I could see people helping each other during Corona. The value of life and the human value and அப்பதான் பார்த்தோம் நிறைய எவ்வளவு பேர் ஒருத்தருக்கு ஹெல்ப் பண்ணிட்டு இருந்தா அந்த சமயத்துல. Lot of people, all strangers helping each other.
Correct.
Plus and the realization வரணும் போது again Zoom would have never thought that it would be so popular for especially for Vedanta and spiritual studies.
Correct. No, absolutely. It's become a platform. It's become a fundamental. And the important thing, like you're saying, Mama, is people have started thinking that, like you're saying, life can be snuffed out anytime. So make the most use of the time that's available to us. So in fact, Corona, if you look at it in Hindi, it is Corona. Do.
Corona, Darona.
Darona.
Darona, Corona.
எது கொடுத்தாலும் அது ஒரு நல்லது இருக்கு.
Absolutely.
அதான் எது கொடுத்தாலும் இது it was a curse for the whole world actually இந்த வந்த போது. பட் இந்த ஆஃப்டர் எஃபெக்ட் இஸ் சோ மச். நம்ம எல்லாம் இந்த அளவுக்கு நமக்கு கிடைக்கிறது இதெல்லாம். அதர்வைஸ் வி வுட் நாட். நான் ஆக்சுவலி நானும் நீயும் மணிக்கணக்குல பேசுவோம். இப்ப மணிக்கணக்குல பேசுறது இல்லை இதெல்லாம் பத்தி. பிகாஸ் யூ ஆர் ஆல்வேஸ் அவைலபிள் இந்த ஜூம் ப்ரோக்ராம்ல. That's the thing.
So that is so this is what Adi Shankara is saying, right? Even in times of non-Zoom, he's been saying the same thing, that you are always, you have the grace. If you're reading the first line of Saundarya Lahari itself, he's saying you are graced, you have the grace, otherwise you won't be reading this. Right? First, he is pointing us. Similarly, he has done something similar in Viveka Chudamani also. The first shloka, he starts to explain how the Manushya, the life of the Manava Jivan, the life of a human being that you've received is such a great blessing, and he enumerates 9 different advantages or 9 different things to say that how the Manushya Jivan that you've got is Durlabha. Right, that itself. So he does the same thing in Viveka Chudamani. So he goes, this is how he sees it. So he says, oh mother, I mean, this is all for us to sit and contemplate, right? Forget what religion we belong to, what matam, what this thing, that thing. There is this energy, there is this beautiful this principle that is operating all over, and that single principle that is operating, and you have tools available through Adi Shankara, through so many different masters. You have tools available to contemplate upon that great entity principle which is governing everything. The smallest ant, from the smallest ant to the Pipili Kanta. In Manisha Panchakam, he says, from the Pipili, from the ant to the greatest Brahmanda, from the Pindanda to the Brahmanda, that principle is governing, and we are sitting here and we are contemplating upon it. That requires grace. That requires significant grace through whatever punyam. Katham enna punyam pannenonu kekkறாரு அவர். இந்த ஜென்மத்துல எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சு நான் எதுவும் பண்ணல. I didn't do anything in this lifetime. There's so many lifetimes I would have done some punya to be able to do this. So this is what the first verse Adi Shankara is saying, right? Shivashaktya yukto yadi bhavati shaktah prabhavitum nachedevam devo na khalu kushala spanditamapi atastvam aradhyam harihara virinchadi bhirapi pranantum stotum va kathamakrita punya prabhavati. कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि। सदाशिवायेति समर्पयामि। जगदम्बिकायै इति समर्पयामि। सद्गुरुनाथायेति समर्पयामि। हरि ओम तत्सद्गुरुभ्यो नमः। देवा